Welcome. I am Dr. Patrice Berry, licensed clinical psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. I ended up with some extra time today to be able to stream this live coverage of the Chad Daybell case. They are just getting started for today, and right now there's an officer that is about to go through a PowerPoint presentation. So that is where we are with this case. If y'all have questions as this is going, and I'll stop and maybe give some commentary along the way, and we will go from there. Welcome, and let's hop right into today's testimony.
The start of the PowerPoint presentation that you created.
Yes.
And can you remind the jury, who was that Homer J. Maximus account ultimately associated with?
Alex Cox.
And if we turn to the first slide, can you see the date on there?
Yes.
And what date is that?
October 8th, 2019.
And can you remind the jurors when the attempted shooting of Tammy Daybell occurred?
October 9th, 2019.
What is it about these searches on October 8th that caught your attention?
These searches, Alex Googled the 100-yard drop to 200 and 100 to 300.
And when we talk about a drop, can you explain what that is?
During shooting and sighting in your rifle with your scope, depending on how far you're out in yardage, a lot of times you will dial in that scope to a precise point of impact of your bullet. The drop of the bullet, the further you're out, the drop of the bullet tends to go down a little bit.
So essentially the idea being that from where you're standing, that's going to be where the bullet will go and where it will ultimately land or hit.
So there is a police officer that is giving testimony right now. I believe he gave some testimony yesterday. Some of this coverage has been a little slow. And so it's just the state is laying out their case. And I believe they're going through some of maybe Alex's information right now.
Hit a target.
Correct.
And also in there, it looks like it was a 6.5 Grendel specifically.
Yes.
What kind of gun was recovered from an apartment associated with Alex Cox?
We know he did.
Alexander Arms 6.5 Grendel.
And then it looks like there's another date on there, October 9th of 2019. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there's some additional searches there. What about those caught your attention?
He searches just different uppers for ARs, muzzle energy brake of 6.5 Grendel, and sizing of frog tog pants.
And breaking those down a little bit, and actually going back to October 8th, was there anything else other than it being the 6.5 Grendel that stood out to you with these particular searches?
Not at this time to me, no.
And then on the October 9th, we've talked about the 6.5 Grendel. What about the frog tog sizing caught your attention?
There were some frog togs purchased on this same day at a different location.
So same, and I might try to speed this up just a little bit. He just talks very, very calmly. Like he's giving very calm conversation. So I did not talk about the coroner from yesterday. And I saw the lawyer did a video talking about that. Some of her testimony might be positive for Chad because the coroner initially ruled that the death was natural causes, and later the medical examiner, once Tammy was exhumed, the medical examiner is the one that's going to rule it to be a homicide. And the interesting thing with coroners, so the medical examiner has a lot more experience than the coroner because she's going to admit that she was new to the position. And I think she did like a a 1 or 2 week course or something, and that she really relied on the detectives and the other people. She really relied a lot on their thoughts and opinions. And when she got more information, that is when she updated the death certificate to be homicide. And so um yeah. Yeah. The state, because she was a really good witness for the defense. If the state hadn't called her, I do believe the defense would have called her. And the way that Pryor went in on her, and we can also talk about the way that Pryor, so there were witnesses yesterday, some of Tammy's friends that talked about like that she was in really good health. They were doing these high performance classes and she was doing, like she wasn't having any problems with any of that. And he asked about, well, was she physically, like, did she look like somebody that was really fit? Like he was body shaming, in my opinion, like, and I think all the women were like she was in great shape. Like, that came off weird. And I don't know how that is going to sit with some of the female jurors, that it was almost like he was saying because like that Tammy didn't have an athletic build, or like it came across bad. Um uh yeah, so Chad, why? That body shaming, it really, really rubbed me the wrong way. It really, really did. It really, really did. And I do think that Emma is going to come in and talk about thinking that her mom was sick. To me, I wonder if I was on the jury, I would question her credibility that she is on her dad's side. And I don't think she wants her dad to go to jail for any of this. I don't think she wants to believe that her dad could be responsible for this. And yes, the evidence is really, really strong against him, in my opinion. We're going to keep listening to this.
And from your investigation, did you learn anything in relation to where those frog togs may have been purchased?
Yes.
And where was that?
Sportsman's Warehouse in Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Did you learn anything in relation or review anything in relation to where a device associated with Alex Cox was located that same day?
Yes.
And where was that?
Sportsman's Warehouse in Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Do you know what color those frog tog pants were?
Black.
And then when we go to the next slide, can you read the date of these searches into the record?
October 10th, 2019.
And can you explain what about these searches stood out to you?
On this day was after the attempted shooting on Chad Daybell. And the next day he is searching if an AR functions in cold weather, how an AR functions in cold weather. Hornady one shot shooting in cold weather. Also how to prep your AR to shoot in cold weather. He also is searching if mag rings shrink in cold weather.
Do you reside around the Fremont County area?
I do.
Have you resided there for some time?
Yes.
What are Octobers generally like in that part of the state?
Microphone, please, Mr. Breyer.
Objection, Judge. It's calling for speculation. He's talking in
About the weather.
generalities, and he has no testimony or knowledge of what the weather was like at any time this particular year.
Your Honor, he testified that he lives in the area and has lived there for some time. I think
I
it would be
I
within his
agree, and
personal knowledge.
I'll overrule.
Thank you. If you can answer.
Can you repeat that?
What are the Octobers generally like in that part of the state?
Octobers get fairly cold in that month. Sometimes prior to that month, Octobers in eastern Idaho are hit and miss.
Do you know what the temperature was on that day?
I believe it was 26 degrees.
Judge, I'd like some foundation as to how he knew that.
Ms. Blake, knowing the precise, I agree, degree temperature would require additional foundation.
Did you do anything to look into what the temperature was that day?
I did.
What did you do?
I Googled and got on to the National Weather Service and put in that date, October 9th, 2019, to see what the temperatures were during that day.
And what were the temperatures?
26 degrees.
And if we go to the next slide, can you read the date of these searches into the record?
October 12th, 2019.
What about these particular searches caught your attention?
So this was after the attempted shooting on October 9th. On this search, he's Googling how to attach a ghillie suit, a cover to a ghillie suit. He's also Googling if a 6.5 Grendel will shoot through a windshield. He Googles the penetration through Dodge Dakota, 2008 Dodge Dakota steel body thickness, the thickness on the doors of a 2008 Dodge Dakota, and the gauge thickness of, or how thick 22 gauge steel is.
And if we break these down a little bit, can you explain what a ghillie suit is?
A ghillie suit's used a lot in the military, snipers. It's a cover that they can use for cover while in the weeds, the brush, the trees, so they're not seen.
And what about a 2008 Dodge Dakota stood out?
Tammy Daybell and Chad Daybell had a 2004 Dodge Dakota registered to them.
And again, a 6.5 Grendel was recovered from an apartment associated with Alex Cox.
Correct.
As part of your investigation, did you also look at some shooting range records?
I did.
Do you recall which shooting range you reviewed records from?
It was a sportsman's club located in St. Anthony, Idaho.
And Your Honor, I have what's been marked as States Exhibit 396 and 396A. Your Honor, I just handed the bailiff a courtesy copy for defense counsel, a copy for the court, and a courtesy copy for Your Honor.
All right.
I'm glad we're here together. And I'm going to try to get a little bit of work done in the background. So if this is body doubling for anybody, please make sure to get whatever you need to get done. Thank you to everyone that's joining. I got a little bit of extra time and got to go live today.
And Detective Kaikamano, if you just look through those particularly Exhibit 396A. And Your Honor, while he's looking through those, I believe these are stipulated to exhibit. The first exhibit 396 would be the affidavit of business records, and exhibit 396A would be the actual logs.
That is correct, Judge.
All right. Those have been offered now and admitted. So 396 and 396A are both admitted exhibits.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yay, Ray. I already ate. If anybody needs to eat, make sure that you eat. Hey, Mama Johnny. So that's my real life
And
mom.
Detective, do those appear to be the records that you reviewed?
Yes.
Were you able to determine whether or not it appeared Alex Cox had been at that gun range?
Yes.
And what did you determine?
Alex Cox didn't sign in as Alex Cox on these sheets.
So, we're going to pause it every so often. And so if you scroll back about 5 minutes or so, we talked about it briefly. I don't think prior thought about how that would sit with the females or anyone, but particularly the females on the jury, because Tammy wasn't, so somebody's fitness and their weight or their body. So a person can be and Tammy wasn't even like a larger bodied person. Like Tammy looks like she was average size, and she didn't look unfit or unwell, but a person can be in a larger body and be extremely fit. A person can be in a smaller body and not be fit. Like a person's body size and fitness, that does not correlate. And so just think about sumo wrestlers. Sumo wrestlers are incredibly fit, but I just can't with Pryor. He's trying for all the straws that he can. Everybody was so upset. And I do think that is going to rub the jury the wrong way. I also talked about, I'm frozen. Am I frozen on y'all's end? Can y'all hear me? Because I look good on this end. I am connected to my, good, because I'm connected to my, I'm wired in. I brought all the wires to the office so that I could freeze a little less today, hopefully. So I am directly connected into my router, and so we should be good today. I am glad that we were able to talk about this. If y'all have questions as we're going, please let me know, because we'll get to skip through some of the breaks. This is testimony that's happening right now. We're probably like 5 to 10 minutes behind the live feed.
He did sign in as Sequent, which Sequent, or I should say CP Quint.
And so, and I'm not, because I'm a body positive person. So like I am all for health versus like body size, but they have some nerve, Pryor and his client, to be talking about somebody's body size. Like that is not okay.
Is the license plate on his Ford F-150 truck. So on the sign-on sheet, the only letter that's missing in that is the P.
And were you able to determine how many times this C. Quint or Alex Cox had visited that gun range?
Yes,
How many times had he visited?
5 times through October 7th to the 15th of 2019.
And again, the attempted shooting of Tammy Daybell was which day?
October 9th, 2019,
And what day was Tammy Daybell pronounced dead?
October 19th, 2019.
I'm not a
Part
fan.
of your investigation, did you also review
Oh,
some data recovered from a phone associated with Tammy Daybell?
I did.
And Your Honor, I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit 108. It is a affidavit of business records in relation to Tammy Daybell's phone.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit.
Moment, Ms. Blake, we're going to verify the number here.
I'm going to fast forward. I'm guessing the number is correct.
Billy, let me have the bailiff hand you the admitted exhibit for your review.
I do like the way that the judge has been managing things. I think he's done a pretty fair job. Sometimes he's like stopped some things from being said or done, and the defense or prosecution hadn't even objected yet. Like he saw things happening that weren't right, and he stepped in before anyone even objected. Okay.
All right, Your Honor, I think we have sorted that out. So State's Exhibit 108 was already admitted.
Yes.
The state would ask to have the witness shown State's Exhibit 291.
I don't know. Also, his statement of her, in his opinion, not appearing to be as fit as everybody else was trying to say that she was, could also be an attempt to try to plant doubt, because it's his job to continuously try to plant doubt in the jury's mind, so that there might be someone on the jury that might, I don't know. But to me, she didn't look sickly at all. Like she didn't look like she was unwell at all. And so who knows? Yes. I think so. Let me find that one and I will put it in the
Do you
chat.
recall reviewing that particular email?
Yes, I do.
And Your Honor, there is a stipulation to admit the contents of Tammy Daybell's phone. This is one of the items retrieved from her phone. So the state would move for admission of Exhibit 291.
Any objection?
No, Judge.
All right, exhibit 291 is admitted.
And Your Honor, the state would ask for permission to publish.
You can publish.
And Detective, are you able to see who sent this email
Yes.
and who was that?
Tammy Daybell from tammy.daybell@gmail.com.
And are you able to see who it was sent to?
Yes.
And who is that?
Mark Daybell at mark.daybell@missionary.org.
And can you see the date that this shows it as having been sent?
Yes. On 10/13/2019 at 2:38, or correction, 2:23:18.
And Your Honor, I'm going to pause to allow the jurors to read.
Okay, thank you.
So I just looked it up, and there are 8 women and 10 men on the jury. And so some of those are likely alternates, because I think 12 are going to decide. So I think they have 18 total seated, and that was just based on a real quick Google search. So 8 women and 10 men. I think the same. And his whole weird thing about that she was going to die young, like I think that was just his weird beliefs, in my opinion. Oh, okay. I don't know. I just Googled it. Yep. So
And
we
Detective,
don't
this
know
was
who
sent
the
just 4
alternates
days
are.
after that attempted shooting. Is that correct?
Correct.
And when we look at that second paragraph, are you able to see approximately what time Tammy says she arrived home that night?
Yes, approximately 9:15.
And are you able to see in there, actually, let me back up. Can you read the last couple sentences there, starting with "I looked up"?
I looked up thinking it was Dad or Garth to help me carry stuff in. Nope, it was a guy dressed all in black with a ski mask on, pointing a rifle at me.
And Your Honor, again, I'm going to pause to allow the jurors to read.
It's too small. I can't see that far. I kind of wish they were reading it, but it's nice for the jury to read it themselves. But yeah. He would be my ex. He wouldn't be my current. If he's over here talking about that, I'm gonna predicting that, like, no, that wouldn't be my current husband. It's just weird. It's just really, really weird. And okay, so I'm gonna pause it because what about like Charles Vallow trying to email her and tell her about the affair? And it really is unclear if she just never opened those emails or like what happened. And that Charles likely, because he was planning to go to Idaho to tell Tammy about the affair. And was it Idaho? I think so. I'm gonna fast forward.
Starting with "I think I was," that first full paragraph into the record.
I think I was a bit in shock because I just said, "What do you think you were doing?" Then I noticed the rifle was actually a paintball gun. It had a hopper on top. The guy started pulling the trigger, and I could hear the clicking and whooshing sound of an empty paintball gun. He stayed standing by the back of the car, just pulling the trigger while pointing the gun at me. For some reason, I just kept asking him what he thought he was doing. At that point, I was actually more annoyed than scared because he was standing between me and the door, and he didn't step towards me or even say anything. The scared part came after, when my brain thought of things that could have happened.
And Your Honor, again, I'm going to pause to allow the jurors to read.
All right.
I agree that there could be some women that could see Pryor's point, which is probably why he took the risk of saying it. Because there's a chance that he might offend some people. And then there's also a chance that there are some people that might have agreed with him. And I think they kept planting that seed that the person that would know the most about her state would be Emma. Because I think they're trying to make Emma's testimony stronger. And to me, because you have to look at what do people have to lose. And I think Emma wants to protect her dad, similar to Buster testifying in Murdaugh's trial. I don't know how the prosecution is going to cross her.
And Detective Kaikamanu, could you read the last sentence of that second paragraph, starting with on Thursday night?
Okay, before we get to that part, do I think Chad is going to testify? The way that I don't know that he wants to tell his story, and I don't know that he wants to be up there and cross-examined, because if he gets up there, they get to ask him, why did you all increase her policy right before? How are you marrying somebody else 17 days? Like the jury could hear directly from him. I think the defense is going to try to have the evidence that they present, because they're going to try to say that Tammy was in good health. And so I do think they're going to try to use his children to tell his side, because I think at least Emma is going to testify. It might be a few there. I don't know how many of his kids might testify. So I think I do not personally think that Chad is going to testify. The defense is really fighting for some things to not be included. I saw that at the end of yesterday's trial, because I think they're trying to keep maybe the increase in insurance or something. They're trying to keep some bit of evidence out because they feel like Chad will have to explain if certain things get introduced, that the jury will want to hear him. And so the defense and Chad, they'll likely make that decision. And then there have been other cases where I was like, I don't think they're going to testify, and they did. And other cases where I was like, ooh, I think they're definitely going to, and they don't. So those are just my thoughts. I don't know.
On Thursday night, though, I didn't go to Zumba because I was quite understandably did not want to be out after dark alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go back to that paragraph that we
I'm
were
not
looking
sure.
at previously.
Okay.
In there, Tammy refers to the paintball gun as a rifle. Is that correct?
Correct.
And she specifically references a hopper.
Yes.
And that's in reference to why she thought it was maybe a paintball gun.
Yes.
She also indicates the guy started pulling the trigger. Is that correct?
Yes.
In this, do you see where she indicates that she was scared?
Yes.
And in that last sentence that we just talked about, she indicated she was scared to go out alone the next night.
Yes.
And Your Honor, I'm going to ask to publish State's Exhibit 281A.
Y'all know we are here for the interruptions. So I think the state, because she is a grieving adult child, and I don't think the state will want to make her look like, I don't think they'll want to come hard at her the way that Pryor comes, but I think they will ask about certain inconsistencies, because it's my understanding they were not aware that Lori had children. I don't believe they had ever met Lori. Like dad just up and left and moved to Hawaii. That's my understanding of what happened. And so there's going to be a side of their dad that they did not know. Did you know he was having an affair? No. And so I do think that they can point out some of those inconsistencies. When everything happened in June, because Lori was arrested in January for not producing the children, Chad was arrested when they recovered the bodies of JJ and Tylee in June. And so I think Emma, they might have already been thinking that Lori was involved in something. And I think they really blame Lori and Alex. And I don't think they blame their dad at all. That's what I think. If you go on my channel, I cover the testimony of Letitia Stout's daughter, and because she believed her mom up until like I think like a few months. I think when her mom switched her plea to not guilty by reason of insanity, and she admitted that yes, she did unalive Gavin and all of that. Like her daughter still had significant difficulty like trying to wrap her mind around all of that, and she testified against her mom. And yeah, those cases where children have to testify against adult children have to testify against their parent, or even minor children, which makes it even more difficult when they have to testify against a parent. It is very, very hard. I think Chad is a master manipulator, in my opinion. And I think, because on another video, I said I didn't think he fully believed everything. I really appreciate the analysis of Mormon stories and then also hidden true crime. They're actually within the LDS faith and they're connected with all of those things. I think Chad wanted to be like a prophet. I think he wanted to have this high status and to be like recognized within his faith and have this notoriety. And he saw other people get that. And then he started talking about these visions, and he wrote those books, and I don't know, but so okay. Because I wonder if they'll ask Emma if they knew about the zombies, or if they knew about the light and dark and their dad raiding people. Like I wonder if they're going to ask her or his other adult children about those things.
It was admitted yesterday.
Okay, it's just a weapon. All right.
And Detective, we talked about this firearm yesterday. Do you recall
I'm going to
that?
fast forward a little bit
And
because
where was
that's
this-
just
J. Maximus.
Judge Foundation.
going to rewind a little bit.
That's
Sorry. There we go.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Kaikamanu, as part of your investigation, did you review reports of other investigators?
Yes,
And did you discuss the matter with other investigators?
yes,
And through your discussion and review, did you learn anything or review anything in
Letitia
relation
Stout.
to the
Letitia
location of a
Stout.
device associated with Alex Cox on October 9th of 2019?
yes,
Did you learn anything in relation to a device being in the area of the Daybell residence?
yes.
What did you learn?
On October 9th, 2019, a device that was associated with Alex Cox, known as Homer J. Maximus, was located going up and turning next to the Daybell residence and driving and making a turn and going back around the Daybell residence. This time frame was about 4:55 p.m. to 5:03 p.m.
I covered David Warwick. So this comment is about David Warwick's testimony. I was able to go live for a little bit. I want to say that was on Tuesday. Yeah, it was on Tuesday. I was able to cover a little bit of his testimony. And he was straight up like, because they're little like firesides. So like Chad was like the highest person. Normally there would be like a church leader, or there would be somebody else at those types of groups. They had this small little cult going, in my opinion. It was this secluded group that had very, very eccentric beliefs that were very problematic, leading to the deaths of multiple people.
So 4 hours or so before the attempted shooting.
Yes,
And later in the day, that same device was at Sportsman's Warehouse in Idaho Falls. Is that correct?
yes.
Detective Kaikamanu, are you aware if any paintball guns were located in the residence associated with Alex Cox?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are you aware if there were any other calls on October 9th that you found in relation to anyone else reporting a masked man pointing a rifle at them?
I did not find any.
You aware of any other reports around that time about a masked man pointing a paintball gun at anyone?
No,
So to the best of your knowledge, this was an isolated incident around this time?
yes.
Do you recall reviewing anything in relation to some Geo-fence location data?
Yes,
What dates did you review that in relation to?
I got those Geo-fence warrants through October 18th into October 19th, 2019,
And again, what day was Tammy pronounced deceased?
October 19th, 2019.
Did you end up receiving responsive data in relation to the Geo-fence?
I did.
Which specific locations did you ask for that data for October 18th to October 19th?
I did 2 fences, one located at 202 North, 1900 East, which is Chad and Tammy Daybell's residence. And then I did another one at 3462 Salem Highway, which is the LDS Church, just 2.6 miles south of the Daybell residence.
And with those Geo-fence warrants, were you looking for a specific perimeter radius on those?
Yes, I did 150 meters.
And can you tell us a little bit about what data you initially got back in your request to those?
So when I requested information for data on any device coming through those through the geofences, I got a response from Google with a bunch of Google identification numbers.
What did you then do with those identification numbers? Can you talk us through that process?
So when we write a warrant like that, Google will send back the numbers that have been going through through the geofences. They don't come back with any names. And so we then have to write another warrant with those numbers to try and find out the associated name to those devices or those numbers.
Did you locate some specific numbers that you did something with?
I did.
How many numbers caught your attention in that initial response?
So the time I had the geofence warrants up, there were 4 numbers that had gone through both geofence warrants or locations.
Did you do anything to follow up on those 4 numbers?
I did.
What did you do?
I met with Detective Stubbs, who at the time worked with Rexburg PD, and he has knowledge on how the geofence works. And we went through the numbers. 2 of the numbers.
Judge, I'm going to object at this point. There hasn't been sufficient foundation to where this knowledge has come from. I've been somewhat patient.
There was plenty of, wasn't there a foundation?
Detective Kaikamanu, did you send in a second search warrant in relation to these geofence?
Yes.
And did you receive responsive information?
Yes.
And how many numbers did you request additional information for?
4.
And you were talking about having met with Detective Stubbs. Did Detective Stubbs initially recognize anything about those 4 numbers?
Judge, objection, that would call for hearsay.
Sustained.
Your Honor, if I may respond.
Well, I would re-ask. I think it was just going to elicit hearsay.
Did you learn anything in relation to those 4 numbers prior to getting the second return?
I did. Yes.
And what did you learn?
Judge, again, it may call for hearsay.
Your Honor, this goes for why the officer did what he did next in his investigation, not for the truth of the matter.
Overruled. You can answer.
I wonder what
I
he's
learned
trying to
that
keep
one of
out.
the numbers that had come back in my geofence warrant, Detective Stubbs already had that number, which was associated with Alex Cox.
So when the defense starts objecting a lot, there's likely something that they don't want to come in or something. I don't know. Like I wonder what all this is about.
It's on a different warrant that Detective Stubbs had wrote and got information back.
And in relation to the other 3 numbers, did you end up receiving responsive data on who those devices were associated with?
I did.
Did you do follow-up on that?
I got a hold of 2 of them. One of them I could not get a hold of.
What were you able to determine in relation to those other 3 numbers?
One of them lives in the Parker area, which is north of Chad Daybell's residence. And the other one lives on Trapper Lane, which is also north of the Daybell residence.
So would it have been normal for their devices to be in that area?
Yes.
In relation to the device associated with Alex Cox,
Hmm.
what did you learn regarding that device?
The device that was associated with Alex Cox and Homer J. Maximus, and looking through the data, the night of October 18th, 2019, that device was at the Salem Church at 10:04 that night, or 10:05 p.m.
Sometime just after 10?
Correct.
Do you know how long the device showed as being located in that vicinity?
In correctional time, I believe it was 10:07 p.m. and it showed him there until 10:45 p.m.
And when we're talking about a geofence warrant, do you know what type of data they're looking at as far as placing a device there?
I believe that is off Wi-Fi and GPS.
So with the geofence, it's located there until 10:45 p.m. of October 18th, correct?
Correct.
Did you learn anything else in relation to that device as far as any later time that night?
That device shuts off or goes dormant and is no longer there. And it is later picked up at 11:53, roughly 7 miles south of the church.
Judge, could we identify what church he's talking about?
And is this the same church that you previously referenced?
Correct, the Salem Church,
And again, how far is the Salem Church from the Daybell residence?
2.6 miles.
So we know a device associated with Alex Cox is there from 10:07 to 10:45 p.m. Is that correct?
Correct,
And from there, we're not sure where the device is
correct,
until 11:53 p.m.
correct.
And at 11:53 p.m., can you remind us again where that's located?
It was located about 7 miles south of the Salem Church on Highway 20.
Through your investigation, did you learn who the last person besides Chad Daybell to see Tammy would have been?
Good to know.
Garth Daybell.
Oh.
And through your investigation, did you learn where Garth Daybell was on the night of October 18th of 2019? October 18th of 2019?
He was at work.
Through your investigation, did you learn if he was at work all night?
I believe he got off around 1 o'clock in the morning.
Do you know where he was working?
He worked at that time. He was working at the Haunted Mill.
And what is the Haunted Mill?
It's October. The Haunted Mill is a
Oh,
haunted scary attraction.
And it's seasonal.
Seasonal, yes.
we have
When
stuff
you
like
looked at
here,
that
too.
geofence, did you get any return on a device associated with Chad Daybell?
No,
Not at either location.
no.
Did you later learn where Chad had indicated he was on October 18th into the morning hours of October 19th?
From other deputies' reports, he had told them that he had been home.
And yet no device was located in relation to Chad Daybell.
Correct.
Interesting. Interesting. Oh, not whiteboard.
So in your review, there's location data placing a device associated with Alex Cox near the Daybell residence on October 9th of 2019, correct?
Yes,
And on the night of October 18th of 2019?
yes.
Were you able to find any connection between Alex Cox and Tammy Daybell?
No,
Were you able to determine?
It sounds like he was working at, this is Garth. It sounds like that's the son. So we have so King's Dominion or Busch Gardens or like some farms and things do like a haunted for October. They do, it's interesting. I don't know, but like they have these like Halloween where people go to get scared. Like it's like a haunted mill. So I'm guessing it was in a like a place where people come to get scared. We have stuff like that here.
Who Alex Cox knew in that area?
at that time, no. The only person that I was aware of would be Chad Daybell.
Through your investigation, did you become aware of some emails from Charles Vallow that he'd sent to an email that he sent to Tammy Daybell?
Yes.
Did you also become aware of an email Charles Vallow sent to Chad Daybell?
Yes.
Do you recall what the content or what the gist of the email that he sent to Tammy was about?
Email that was sent to
Yeah.
Tammy was on June 29th, 2019. And Charles was reaching out to her school address, email address, and telling her that he had some information about an affair going on. He didn't go into too much detail because he didn't want to explain all that over email, and left Tammy his number to have Tammy call him.
And through your investigation, were you ever able to determine whether or not Tammy Daybell had contact with Charles Vallow?
I was not able to confirm that.
And in relation to the email Charles sent to Chad Daybell, do you recall the gist or content of that?
Yes.
And what was that about?
So Charles sent on the same day an email to Chad, telling Chad that he was aware of what was going on between him and his wife, and Chad needed to tell his wife, or Charles was going to expose them.
Yep.
He was also aware that Lori had sent him some dance videos of her, and that was inappropriate.
Through your investigation, did you learn whether Chad and Lori were married?
Yes.
And what did you learn?
I learned that they got married November 5th, 2019.
And again, Tammy Daybell was pronounced dead on October 19th of 2019.
Yes.
Do you know when her funeral was?
October 22nd, 2019.
So just 3 days later.
Yes.
And I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blake. Cross-examination.
Judge, would you like me to start or do you want to take a break?
Let's keep going.
Why don't you go ahead and start, and we'll take a break here in about 20 minutes or so, if that works.
Thank you. That works. Nobody asked me. Prior. Okay, everybody breathe. Prior. Oh. Mm. He's taking a second. Okay, there we go.
Can we have the microphone, please?
Yeah, I
Officer,
can't hear.
if you would allow me to either call you Officer K or I'm going to mispronounce your name for the next 20, 25 minutes.
That Officer K is okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm bad with names.
Now, Officer, you took the liberty of
PowerPoint.
find this. Going through talking about your report about the emails between Mark Daybell and Tammy. Is that right?
Yes.
And Judge, I believe that was Exhibit 291. And if I
Buttercup. Like, it's my understanding he rushed Tammy's funeral was so fast that some of her relatives were unable to attend because they weren't able to make arrangements fast enough. 3 days later. And I think her remains, like, he didn't do it where they lived. I think it was, I don't know, like it was a whole big thing. He did it so fast and then went to Hawaii. And to me, some of the really damning evidence is them filling out applications in Hawaii saying that they have no children. A married couple with no children, Chad and Lori. That stuff is just, I don't know how he's going to get past that, because let's say, but he might say, Lori told me the kids were with whoever, but Melanie, like, I think he was aware that Lori was trying to have Melanie lie when the police were looking for the kids. And I think Melanie, I don't know if she said it on the stand, but I heard her point out the fact that all of their visions and all the stuff they're saying, it seems to line up with their carnal or their, sometimes spiritually, people will talk about the flesh or their, like, what their desires and not necessarily like spiritual desires. And I'm sure they didn't even hear that part, but oh well.
could have 291.
I might have to slow him down. if
Yes,
this
we'll
is too
have the
fast.
bailiff hand that to you.
Have permission to just publish.
You may publish that.
He talks fast. I might have to slow it down to normal.
And officer, if you could tell me the date of that email.
10/13/2019.
Okay. And then that was obviously Dear Markey, that would be Tammy's son.
Yes.
Okay. And the very first sentence, it said, on Wednesday during the day, a lady pulled into Price's driveway, grabbed their dog, drove off, right?
Yes.
And then she went on to talk about what transpired about that and about where they tried to locate where the lady lived. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, now, from your investigation, were you able to determine where Regan Price lives?
Yes.
Where's Regan Price live?
Regan Price lives directly south of Chad Daybell's house.
Okay, and then that would be directly east of Joe Murray's house.
Correct. Yes.
So if we have if we can visualize this, we have Chad Daybell's property. And approximately how big is Chad Daybell's property? Do you know?
Pretty large.
Not aware of that.
Okay, it's a more than an acre.
Yes.
Okay. And directly across the street from Chad Daybell's property is another house, correct?
Yes.
And then kitty corner to the south and to the west would be Joe Murray, right?
Yes.
And directly southeast of Chad's property would be Regan Price. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay, so 4 houses all kitty corner from each other, and this is more of a rural setting. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And the houses are all on larger plots of property, correct?
Yes.
But the houses themselves are relatively close in terms of location. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
All of the houses on that particular corner, we heard on the
I wonder if he's trying to get to the fact that, like, I wonder if he's trying to say that those houses are all close together, and so I don't know what he's trying to get at. But
911, there was something about a flashing yellow light. And on that very corner, that's where all the 4 residences are located, pretty much on the corner of each of those, that intersection, right?
Yes.
Okay, so relatively close together are these homes that we've established that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the close neighbors is this lady by the name of Regan Price, correct?
Yes.
And she talked about how somebody pulled into their driveway and grabbed their dog. Do you recall when that took place?
Well, in this email, she's writing it on the 13th about the night of the attempted shooting. So I'm assuming it was on the 9th.
Okay, so if you look at the very first line to her, she's writing this on the 13th to her son, which was a short time after the paintball incident. She says on Wednesday, during the day with Reagan outside. So can we presume that it was that Wednesday of that week?
Yes.
Okay. So at that point, somebody grabbed Regan Price's dog, took off, stole the dog and disappeared, correct?
Yes.
I don't know why we're
And
talking about
then
a dog.
now she says on the same day, you look down below to the second paragraph, right? You see that?
Yep. Yes.
She was coming home from clogging. It was about 9:15 and she backed into the driveway. Okay. So the nose of her car was facing out of the driveway, correct?
Yes.
Now, what I'd like to know is, you've been out to the house, right?
Yes.
And how long of a driveway is that?
The front driveway, and I haven't measured it, but maybe,
I can make it easier for you if we could do it in
Yeah.
terms of an analysis. Would you be able to park 3 cars back to back in that driveway and not have any of them sticking out into the road?
maybe 2.5 to 3. Yeah.
Okay, 2.5 to 3 cars maybe,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so and from your experience as a police officer, do you know the length of what the average automobile would be?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. But if we took the size of an average automobile and we multiplied it times 2.5, that's how much space we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And if you were looking at this bench in front of us, how many cars would you say could, where the jury's sitting, how many cars could you push back to back in front of this,
I
this
don't know.
bench?
Probably about 2.
Okay, so if we're asking about 2.5, would it be fair to say that the driveway was from the end of that bench to where this officer is?
Possibly.
Okay, so that's the length of the driveway. And at that point, from what I understand, according to this document, to Mark, she was getting some items out of the back seat and realized someone was at the back of the car. So she backed her car in and someone was behind her car. That would be near the garage. Is that the way you're reading that?
Behind her car, yes.
Okay, so someone was behind her car near the garage. She looked up thinking it was Dad or Garth to help her. Nope, it was a guy dressed in black with a ski mask on pointing a rifle at me. And she did say the word rifle, didn't she?
Yes.
Okay. Then she went on to talk about that she was in shock because what do you think you were doing? Then the next line was starting with then. Would you read that next line for me?
Then I noticed the rifle was actually a paintball gun. It had a hopper on top.
Okay. Now, you know what a hopper is, right?
Yes.
You've seen a hopper?
Yes.
You know a hopper is different than a rifle scope, right?
Yes.
And you know that, Judge, I'm gonna.
I have no clue what we're. I think Alex took the dog. What are we saying? Okay, they're having a
So in any
conversation.
event, you know that a hopper is a little different than a rifle scope, right?
I
Yes.
don't know.
And you know that a hopper is a large composite of some kind container, right?
It's a plastic container.
A big
Yes.
plastic container.
I have no clue why we're. Uh-oh. I don't know what happened. Did the trial coverage cut? What just happened? Uh-oh. All right. Let's find a different stream. That was weird. It just cut for no reason. I am gonna find it on another stream. Oh, I think the court feed cut because even Law and Crime, it cut over there as well. So it says court will resume shortly. Maybe. Oh, that's weird. All right, so I think they might be on a. I don't know. Something happened. That was very, very strange. Like all of a sudden it just cut. But it might have been because the coverage. And honestly, what they were talking about, I don't even know where Pryor was going with any of that. Do y'all have any questions, any thoughts? I think they're going to go on about a 20-minute break. I'm going to get some more work done. Yeah. Even the camera stopped paying attention. Y'all are the best. I think they're going to take a little break. I know Uncivil Law, he is like reading Chad's books during breaks, and I just can't. I just can't with Chad. And this whole thing is just very, very strange, very odd. This Saturday, I'm going to be talking about a very difficult situation out of the state of Oregon, because some of their mental health laws have been very, very difficult. And people have struggled to get family members, especially adult family members, care and support, which has, like, things have happened. And so we're going to talk about that on Saturday. If there is any really interesting testimony that happens in the next few days, I will definitely cover that. I'm glad that I got to hang out with y'all live for a little bit. Make sure that y'all eat your lunch, take care of yourself, do all the things you need to do. Thank you to all of my international viewers. So those of you all in the UK, I hope y'all have a good evening, and I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.